It's been almost a year since I sent the final manuscript off to the publisher for my book, Untapped Church, in which I talk about our church's journey towards staffing many of our ministries with volunteer, yes, unpaid leaders. We've created a culture in which unpaid leaders can rise to any and every level of our church organization, including pastors and ministry leaders, even supervising some of our pastoral staff. And after doing some podcasts about the book and speaking at a few training events with pastors and ministry leaders, there are a couple of things that I wish I had said more clearly or more forcefully in the book. So I thought I'd shoot a little video about 3 things I wish I had said if I were writing that book over again. The first thing is this. I wish I had focused more on people's callings outside the church. I have a really high view of the power and potential of the church, and my book very much centers on leadership roles within the church. I believe pastors would be healthier and more effective. I believe churches would be more radiant and biblical if more volunteers were unleashed into meaningful roles. However, I also realize that for many people, their calling is their job. My dad is a great example of this. He was a high school teacher and a coach. For decades, my dad was the greatest spiritual influence in the lives of a huge percentage of his students and athletes. They went to him for counsel and advice and care. He often provided motivation through the words of scripture and prayer. He visited them at home or in the hospital when they were sick or injured. I realize that every Christian's mission in the world is bigger than what happens inside the walls of a church. And part of a pastor's job is not just to make sure that the church is functioning well, but that our people are living on mission 7 days a week. So I wish I had built this idea out a little bit more in the book. But second, I wish I had emphasized that changing a culture is a slow and painful process. When you write a book like this, one of the dangers is that it can seem like it was a quick and easy process. Just try these 3 easy steps and you can too, you get the picture. But people who are reading a book like that can have a tendency to dismiss certain principles because they assume that it worked easily for you, but it's too hard for them. At Grace, our journey to implementing a volunteer leadership culture has taken 13 years and counting. We're still learning and trying to figure it all out. Some of the steps that I devoted 1 page to in the book took 3 years to implement in real life. And so my encouragement to pastors and leaders is to start with what is right in front of you. There may be one person in your church who you could see stepping up into a volunteer staff position. Start with him or her. Or you may have a role that if the right person filled it, that role would make a huge impact on your church. And instead of waiting till you have the money to hire it or to find the perfect person, just begin to pray that God would bring a volunteer who would be perfect to do that job. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved, and I wish I'd emphasized that a little bit more. Finally, I wish I had cast more vision for a volunteer culture in the post-COVID church. I finished writing the book during the first year of COVID, and I wish I had anticipated that the crisis that the church would face as we walked through this pandemic. Now, with rumors of many churches shutting down, many pastors leaving the ministry, I believe more than ever that this idea of staffing your church with volunteers could breathe new life into those who feel like giving up. I think this could be one way that God uses to sustain and to purify and even grow his church in a new chapter of history. So I would urge other pastors, before you throw in the towel, would you prayerfully consider engaging some untapped volunteer leaders in your church and invite them into a new level of involvement? God might just surprise you with the impact that they will have, not only on your church's mission, but on your own health and well-being.